In this video, we're going to go over the CSS text shadow property. Now, I've hard-coded this, so let's take a look and see what it looks like. See, we see the little shadow there? If I make the font black, we can see it a lot better. So let's go back over in this text shadow property because it's not something that a lot of people are familiar with. If you're familiar with this already, this is good, and just take this as a review. Okay, so our text shadow property has actually 3 levels. The values are, the first value is going to be the horizontal, the second value is going to be the vertical, and the third value is going to be the spread, and then we have the color. So then we separate with a comma and we create other levels. So for example, this would be one level, and this would be a second level, and then we have a third level, and they're separated by commas. Each one of them has a distinct spread, horizontal, vertical. Now the second and third levels in this particular case have a 0 horizontal and a 0 vertical, but the spread is increasing. See, we have 6 pixels, 12 pixels, and 24 pixels. The spread is increasing by 2. That could be part of our design. So we can also use just one level. So let's take a look at that and save it. And when we refresh, you see you can barely see the shadow because it only has one level. When you make the text black or dark, it's a lot easier to see the shadows. But anyway, so let's go back to the code. Now let's go ahead and add those 2 other levels back in. Okay, so we have 3 levels, but they're all of the same color. Let's change the colors. Let's make them all white. So I'm going to copy that, paste it here and here, and then save it and refresh. Now let's So we can change other colors now. We can make these different colors. Let's make this one red, and then the second level red, and then the third level, let's make that blue. So that would be blue. Now refresh, make the text black. See, you can see the red in the first level and the blue in the second. And we can change the spread, and it's always going to give us a different effect. So we can make more changes here and see what kind of effects we can get. But what we really want to do is make this dynamic. So let's do that. So let's cut all this and go to the JavaScript, and down in our generate CSS function, let's find that. Now, inside the generate CSS function where we created the object that sets the CSS for our element, let's go ahead and paste that. Now this text shadow is the property, so that needs to go inside quotation marks. Also, all these values, since they're hard-coded, we have to wrap them around single quotation marks. So now we need to go into the HTML. Okay, let's find our text shadow field set. It's right here. Now what I want to do with this text shadow is I want to create one of those numbers just like we did with the font size. So I'm going to go up here where we had the font size, the inputs, the slider and everything. Copy all that. Down here I'm going to paste it. Now I just need to change everything from font size to horizontal. And you know, I don't even need this label, so I'm going to get rid of that. Now notice that we have both of these inputs are wrapped around a div. That makes them siblings of each other. This is going to be important in a little while. because we're going to sync these two inputs up so that when we change the slider, the number input gets changed and vice versa. So right now, let's go ahead and save this and look and see what we got in the browser. Okay, so now we need to create two more div elements, with one for the vertical and one for the spread. So let's go back to the code, and I'm going to go ahead and copy. Well, first of all, I want to change these values to 0. Okay, but now I'm going to copy all this horizontal from the div inputs, horizontal inputs, and copy it below. Now I'm going to change all this, everything, to vertical. Okay, so now I'm going to copy all this. I'm going to make one for the spread. Okay, let's save this and take a look. Okay, now we have our inputs that get the value for our horizontal, vertical, and spread. Let's go to the JavaScript, and inside of our custom generate CSS function, let's get the values of our horizontal, vertical, and spread inputs and get them in a variable. Okay, so horizontal is now equal to the value of our input with an ID of horizontal number, and vertical equal to vertical number, and spread equal to spread number. But let's look and see now, can we replace these variables with our hard-coded values? Notice that our hard-coded values have the pixel prefix, so we got to go up here and we can add it in line, but let's go ahead and add it to our variable. So plus, and in parentheses, in quotation marks, pixels. We need to do that for each one. So let's copy this, paste it down here for the vertical, and then for the spread. So I need to change some of the HTML. I need to make the max 50 for our horizontal, for our vertical, and our spread. Min is going to be 0. Okay, I'm going to change the step to 1. That's how much it's going to jump each time you make a change. I'm going to do this to all the other inputs for the text shadows. Okay, now back in the JavaScript, let's go ahead and take this horizontal and replace it down here with our 2 pixels. But here's the problem. We need to make sure there's spaces here, so we need to add 2 single quotes, and then we need to concatenate with 2 plus signs, and inside the plus signs we're going to put our variable horizontal. So we need to make sure that we have the space and then our value, and then we need to add to that our string. So we have our space, then we have our variable, and then we have another space and the rest of our string. We're going to make this more dynamic, but first let's check this out. Okay, so first of all, we need to be able to call this function whenever we change our horizontal number. So let's copy this function right here, and below we'll paste it, and this is going to be our horizontal number. So let's save that and check it out. So now when we change our horizontal number, we actually are getting the text shadow. You see, we are creating a horizontal text shadow. So now let's go back to the JavaScript and let's do the same thing but with the vertical. So for right now we have 2 pixels hard-coded. So let's get rid of that. Let's inside 2 quotation marks, single quotes, we're going to put 2 plus signs, and then inside those plus signs we're going to get our variable vertical, which we already attached the pixels to. We're going to paste it there. So now we also have to call our CSS, our generate CSS, whenever we change our vertical input. So we can copy this and make another function right here, or we could go to the HTML, and everywhere we want to call this function, let's give our inputs, our selects, a class, call it generator. Okay, so now I'm going to copy that class generator and paste it wherever I have the inputs when I want to call our custom function CSS generator. So all of our vertical, horizontal, our spreads, they're all going to have the class of generator. So then let's go back to the JavaScript, and instead of all these functions, let's just get that one class dot generator, and we're going to call our generate CSS function whenever we change those. So let's go and try this out. Okay, let's refresh. Now I'm going to change the font family and see if that does call the function. So let's let me make the font dark so that we can see our text shadow. Now let me change the horizontal, and sure enough we are getting the horizontal and the vertical. Okay, so now we only have one function, get the generator, and when it changes we're going to call our custom function, generate CSS. So as we're developing more and more inputs, we're going to have to give it the class of generator, because that's when we call our function. So let's go back to our function, and the next thing we have to do is work on our spread and our colors. Now our spread is going to be a little bit more tricky because we have 3 different levels and they are increasing by 2 times for each level. Now the last level we increased by 48 pixels, but we hard-coded that. And our color, we have 2 colors here. So this is going to be a little trickier, and we're going to have to do that in the next video because this one's becoming too long. So thanks for watching, and we will continue working on our text shadow in the next video.